Brock Sr. says, I want to see Mark and that van in 2 hours. In the States, at least, it seems that uh, over the long arc of being a car guy, you end up in some way, shape, or form at some time coming up against, in contact with, Cannonball or One Lap of America. I also have done that. I didn't do it as a primary driver in the seat. What I did was, with a group of other NSX owners, I ran a sag wagon, a backup vehicle, which at the time was outside the spirit of the rules. Yet, the One Lap, of course, has always been known for treading lightly on rules, even putting up rules that seriously look like they're deliberately there to be broken. This was 2005. There were a couple of NSX owners in a collaboration with some heavily modified NSXs that were just a small step away from being race cars. Frankly, they were race cars that we had put a tag on and put a minimum exhaust system on it so that they were not deafening. Although if you were riding inside the cabin, yes, they were deafening. It was quite uncomfortable. The idea was an NSX had never placed well in the One Lap, and they had been campaigned on a number of occasions over the years in the One Lap. These other NSX owners decided they really wanted to do something about this. And these cars were absolutely over the top with an abundant, senseless amount of money spent on them, of course, as car guys do. And they were capable of extraordinary performance. You know, both had over 400 horsepower and had been seriously lightened on a racetrack diet. And they were going to be very uncomfortable to drive, 4,000 or 5,000 miles around the country, making 8 or 9 stops at racetracks. And it was felt in our kind of pre-event planning that the cars were going to need an underground level of support. It seemed unlikely that these fire-breathing NSXs were going to be able to do this sustainably on their own, unsupported. We made a plan. I was kind of leading the support role for those cars. We had a van. We were going to be the media crew. And I had some cameras, and we would follow the One Lap and go to every stop. And I was taking footage and doing faux interviews to kind of give the cover story some substance. And we slept in the van, as you do on One Lap. Sleeping in the car is a regular thing. But also, there were in the back, behind some camera equipment, a bunch of spare parts for NSXs, even a few tires. And for those in the VINwiki audience who have done the One Lap, you're not supposed to change tires. We had a plan, and we wanted to make sure one of these NSXs got to the podium. By about the 4th or 5th day, one of the NSXs is in contention for the class win, being heavily contested by an extremely well-driven and well-prepared E46 BMW. The E46 owners, as the NSX continued to, we would take points away from them, they would get points back, we would take points away at the next stop. You didn't have to be a detective to eventually grasp what was going on in the background here. And they complained to Brock Sr. And Brock Sr. had seen our van, my media cover story, and he asked me to bring the van over to him for an inspection. In One Lap tradition, he created a little space, I guess. In other words, he gave me 2 hours. Brock Sr. says, I want to see Mark and that van in 2 hours. Well, what did we do? Of course, we found an off-site location to empty all the support related items from the van. In due course, I met Brock at the time that he wanted to see me. We were at Nilson Ledges, Ohio. Brock opens the doors of the van. He looks at my token camera equipment, a couple of duffel bags of road trip gear. There's nothing there that would imply we're providing mechanical support or assistance. And of course, Brock just, scoffs and tells me we're full of shit. But it's one lap. You can get away with a lot on the one lap of America. It's part of the DNA of the spirit and the culture of the lap dogs. The very interesting thing about all this is while clearly, and it's 20 years ago, let's hope that the OLOA statute of limitations has run way out on this, but the NSX that we had to provide serious support to, like every night as soon as we left the track, we would get out tools and lights and do a bunch of service. The other NSX didn't really need anything. And we got to day 6, maybe it's day 7 of the event, and we're at VIR. And the other NSX, which is contending for the points lead in the 3-liter GT class, now we're going to do the laps at VIR. We leave pit lane under full throttle, under boost. It's making 400 plus horsepower. The gearbox pops. And the car goes from 0 to 90 and back to 0 really fast. And it rolls to a stop on the shoulder. VIR recovery tows the car in. Now this gearbox is broken. Remember the E46 BMW, the other contender? They were laughing and loving it. They thought for sure we are done. Under the rules of one lap, you can service your car at the racetrack. You can get people to bring parts for you as long as they are not parts that you're carrying with you, if you see what I mean, in terms of, unless you've got it in the car. Well, you can't carry a spare gearbox in an NSX while you're running the one lap, of course. The NSX community, being what it is, made a few phone calls, and after this gearbox blew up on our prepared car that was the one lap contender, 2 hours later, I had a replacement gearbox brought to us from another NSX owner who was in the Greensboro, North Carolina area. That's only an hour plus from VIR, brought us a gearbox. We spent 4 hours on our backs in the paddock changing the gearbox. All of that I'm describing is entirely legit within the rules of one lap. As long as you haven't done this on the road or gone especially to a service provider, you have to do it yourself. That was done. We got that car back on the road under power with a replacement gearbox in it late that night. The next stop is Roebling Road. We're going from VIR to Roebling Road as the next transit. The next morning, everybody is, now we're lined up to make laps at Roebling Road. And we showed up in the NSX, which had been street driven, not towed or trailered, under its own power with a replacement gearbox from VIR to Savannah overnight. And we showed up at Roebling Road, and the guys in the E46 were absolutely beside themselves. They were so sure that we had cheated up a storm. Turns out, all that we did to that car was entirely legit and permitted within the rules of one lap. We did some cheating, for sure, on the other NSX. Unfortunately, it had mechanical issues that prevented it from being a contender. The one that was the contender, that we did a legitimate gearbox change at VIR, ended up winning the class. That was in 2005. You can look it up.
When you get a ticket, it might look something like this, but the first thing that you need to do is take a picture of that ticket and send it to 305 305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. They've got brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they can help you find a ticket no matter where you get it in the United States by helping you find a local attorney that will do everything they can to help you avoid costly fines, insurance premium increases, points on your license, risk of suspension, even jail time. They've helped me out with this ticket and many others, and a lot of my friends as well. So check them out now at the link in the description below, or again, text your ticket to 305 305 to get the ticket clinic on your case. They are the perfect partner in your fight against any speeding ticket.